Hello and welcome to my final presentation for cloud computing. My name is Stefan Frunze. This is assignment 3, and I'm going to start this presentation by taking a look at the health check on the load balancer URL that I've got open right here. As you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, well, that might be a bit too much. It's got a bunch of information about where you can find the source code and the version that we're currently running at, which is 11.1, and yeah, the status is okay. So the server is currently healthy, and now I'm going to switch over to the front-end UI that is actually connected to this. You can see here, this is where we log in through Cognito. We can go ahead and try and log in right now. Log in using my credentials. And for the purposes of this presentation, my account actually doesn't have any fragments associated with it yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a testing fragment really quickly so that we can see just a plain text fragment. You can see that it populates this table here that has the size, the times they're updated and created at, the ID, the owner ID, and the type. The owner ID you'll see will stay the same throughout because it's attached to the user, and this is the same user that's going to be going through this whole process. So let's try and actually get by ID. Let's take the ID, put it in here, and then when you click try it, it will get the fragments data that is associated with it. So this is gotten through the get expand route when it's set to 1, and this is gotten through get by ID. This is the ID that we pass. So let's post another fragment. This time let's take a picture, for example. We can take trav.gif as our first picture that we upload. And as you can see, the size is much greater for a picture, specifically a GIF in this case. It's pretty large comparatively to just the little text that we had there. And when we try to retrieve the data associated with this metadata, you can see it's a GIF of John Travolta kind of questioning his surroundings a little bit. So let's talk about how you actually convert on this front end here. So to use the conversion routes, what you need to do is you need to give it an extension that it can actually convert to, just right here as an extension to the ID. So for example, .png here, it will convert the buffer data to a different type using sharp, and over here you can see the GIF is no longer moving. All right, so that's fine and dandy. Let's upload another few things here and play around with those. Maybe we can have dog PNG so we can see that a picture just works off rip. This cute little dog with a bucket hat. And let's test a few other things. So to post a JSON fragment, for example, you need to very specifically adhere to the guidelines of creating JSON. So you have to have something in this format, otherwise it will complain. So let's select application JSON and post this. As you can see, one of these is going to be application JSON now, and this is going to just return exactly what we put in there. We'll have JSON. But now let's open up the console and see what's happening. So JSON works perfectly fine, but what if we decide to mess with this a little bit? Let's say we take off the trailing curly brace. This is going to actually result in us having a problem in the console. It's going to give us back an error specifying what exactly is going wrong, and it says unexpected end of JSON input. If you then put this on and we add a character here, for example, it's going to give us a different error, but the same error code. So it's going to give us 500, but it's going to tell us specifically that this is an unexpected token in the JSON and at what position it's in. So it'll kind of guide us in the creation of the JSON. So if we wanted to create a JSON here, again, we can just do it like that. This will likely end up being the same, except it probably has that space in it right now. This that new carriage return that I just put in there, which adds in size apparently, but does not format here. Okay, so now we've got that going on. Let's talk about Markdown, because Markdown is another thing that we should be able to convert. Bold and italics, for example, should be possible to convert. Let's put that in there, and this will be a Markdown fragment, and we can find the Markdown fragment, and we will retrieve it by ID. And as you can see, it's just the plain thing there until we convert it to HTML. And here it's going to give us bold italics. And if we want, what we can do is we can say text, and this will also just be bold italics. Okay. Okay, at this point, let's log back out and see whether this persists for this user if we log back in. So as you can see, we've logged out. We click log in with the same credentials as before. And we should be able to see all of our information that we just had. Let's take one of our GIFs. Let's have John Travolta look around some more. And you can see it's all the same. And that's because most of this stuff, well, all of the metadata and all of the actual buffer data is persisted through S3 and through Dynamo. So we can take a look at that right now. Under here, we can see there was nothing when we started, but when we refresh, there is a bunch of information over here. All of this is the raw buffer data for all of the metadata that you see here, and all of this metadata has also actually been persisted, and we can find this by going through to Dynamo. So we can just look for Dynamo, and when we click over here and we click on our tables, you can see here we have the fragments, and if we explore table items, let's max screen it so you can see a little bit better. This is all of our table items and all of the attributes that are equivalent to the attributes that you see in the table that is displayed on our front end. So now that you know where that all comes from, let's take something and update it. So for example, let's say I want to update this GIF. There's two different buttons here on the front end, one that will pull from this field over here, the choose file field, and one that will pull from the text area. So to update this GIF, we already have it here. What we can do is we can choose another file. In this case, it has to be of the same kind, so the same extension. Given that it has to be of the same kind, let's take kick.gif and let's click update image. So this ID should now have new data attributed with it. Now when we press try it, it should go and it should retrieve a new GIF, which it does. Oof. Okay, maybe we should upload good old Johnny Trav again, because this is a little bit hard to watch. And try it, and we got Johnny back again. All right, so that is updating in terms of an image. What you can't really do is you can't take something that is of a different extension and update that instead. So let's say I wanted to update this with dog PNG. This will give me an error in my console. It'll say here, error, fragments type cannot be changed after it is created. Which is true, you can't change this fragment type after it's created. That is the spec. The only thing you can do is you can convert the buffer data by saying something like this, and then, as you can see, it changes it. But this isn't actually persisted anywhere. This is just displayed on the screen. Now let's take a look at trying to delete an existing fragment. Let's take the John Travolta GIF once more. And let's delete it. So the delete button we'll just as easily do that. As long as the ID is specified here, the delete button will take the ID and it will use it in the route. It'll delete it. Now if we try it again, it'll be undefined because this doesn't exist anymore. There's no ID at this location.